I was once approached with the question, Cedric, what is poetry to you, and why do you do it? And my mind suddenly thought of the prophet Ezekiel. Yes, Ezekiel. In Ezekiel chapter 33 was faced with the dilemma of people sitting before him, pretending to be sincere, listening to his words, but yet they do not hear. What God is speaking through him to them, they have no intention of doing it because their attention is only focused on doing them. See, Ezekiel was only entertaining to them, like someone who sings with a beautiful voice or plays music on an instrument, but they themselves were dissonant because they loved his gift. But his words, they never took the time to take heed nor hear. And I soon realized that indeed that was my biggest fear. That poetry would only introduce people to myself but not to Christ. That my words will only serve as a function to entertain or never compel change or never operate to heal pain. That the people remain the same, then ultimately this gift would be in vain. See, if ministry was essentially camouflage to only entertain, then you tell me what would I gain? See, Ezekiel was a major prophet who wasn't concerned with major profit because he was only concerned with God's words majorly profiting his audience. And his hope was that his audience would be on to this and that it'd be obvious to his audience that the ambience was due to an awesome and marvelous God, because if they could see his prominence, then Ezekiel was content with being anonymous. I said he was content with being anonymous. I don't want to be so vain and grandiloquent that I forget that in God's body I'm just an infinite ligament whose weakness and impotence is magnified compared to his limitless omnipotence. That I'll start thinking ridiculous that God is my equivalent, but that's what happens when we're no longer vigilant. See, our pride is just a vivid extension of our own wickedness, so I do not aspire to be a poet because I believe it will correlate with fame, but it will always be connected with my Savior's precious name. I don't want to get so consumed with my views on YouTube that my vision gets skewed, that if he can do it for me, then he can certainly do it for you too. So I'm not focused on being on major television networks because I want God to network for me. For he created the air and the waves and communicates by telling his vision so that I can provide motion to his big picture so that I just can't stay static. I want him to open doors instead of me asking him for blessings I may not be ready for. I don't want to make his word less compared to my similes and metaphors. I don't want to get so consumed with marketing myself, for he is the one who has much more in store. I don't want my rhetoric to go bigger than my passion for Christ, that I ultimately forget the reason why I stand behind this mic. But since nowadays the gospel is often spoke about in terms of fame, money, and prosperity, well, here it is. God paid the ultimate price through his son Jesus Christ, and our value was already purchased so that we could be saved. He paid on our debts and we wouldn't face death. He took on our wages and gave us back change, and he received the biggest promotion ever when on the third day he was raised. By him our worth was appraised, so that's why I give him the praise. He bought us with the most infinite cost, so it's evidently apparent that he is the boss. In other words, this is grace, God's riches at Christ's expense, and it doesn't matter if we were careless and overspent, because he will return everything back to us if we just repent. And if we invest in him, we will experience growth. So by his work alone, I can only boast. I always want to be connected to his account. I want God at full price and not just on discount. I want to be so consumed with his interests. So basically you could say I want to be about my Father's business. But listen, pride has us thinking that we are more important than what we are worth, that we make God amount to nothing. For what does it profit a man to gain the whole wide world only to lose his soul? So instead of living free without paying a fee, we continue to pay an unnecessary toll. Listen, whatever you reap, you will in turn sow it. So if your true motive is only to be recognized, then you will soon show it. But greed and pride won't even allow you to know it. See, poetry is not about getting change from me, but it's more about giving change for me. And I pray to God that popularity doesn't bring a change in me, Listen, all I'm saying is that if we are more concerned about receiving change rather than giving change, then we have defeated the whole purpose for why Christ even came. So at the end of the day, my prayer is that one person will apply what I have said more than just 1 million who applause what I have said. My hope is to be effective and not just entertainment. This is service to God more than just performance for man. At the end of the day, this is ministry, minus